Can Agile really work for you? What makes it sustainable? Lots of Agile initiatives start strong, then fade out. But some people are actually getting huge benefits from Agile, including ROI, speed, and team happiness. My goal is to make you one of them. I'm Kelly Fide, Agile coach and exec coach, and avid rock climber, nature lover, and mom. Today we talk with Sebastian Hellmann. He's an Agile product owner at Siemens, Germany. And the problem he's trying to solve is how to help people step into Agile roles when things are messy. So how do you become a good PO or a good Scrum Master? What do those roles look like when they're well occupied or when they're poorly occupied? He also tells true stories around saying no, that coaching helps, helping a team new to Agile where they thought they were doing Agile because they were doing sprints, pig with lipstick, and what really happened to help them become Agile. And then he tells more success stories around Agile metrics for leaders that leaders actually like and understand. And then Lean Startup, you can do it. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the next episode of the Agility Transformation Podcast. I'm Kelly Fide. I'm an Agile coach and an executive coach, and I'm here with Sebastian Hellmann, who I am so excited, honestly, Sebastian, to do this interview because I think you have so many things to share with people that are going to be incredibly helpful. So,
hi, Kelly.
Yeah, hi.
Thanks for having me here.
Yeah. So Sebastian has a ton of experience in IT and somewhat new, like maybe a year into Agile. So I'll let you introduce yourself, Sebastian. Tell us about yourself, and including tell us one thing about yourself that people would never guess.
Okay. Yeah. So hi to everyone. My name is Sebastian Hellmann. I'm German. So maybe that's the first thing I have to mention.
Herzlich willkommen.
Herzlich willkommen, exactly. So I'm working at Siemens in the internal IT departments for about 10 years now. I started as a straight developer, dealing with some strange stuff like SAP, ABAP, coding, and went through a couple of projects with waterfall and stuff. And like since 3 years now, I changed the role a little bit. So I'm now a team lead of a team, and my new role is called business partner for our internal for internal services and internal IT. So for an internal business unit, I'm the first contact regarding all IT stuff. So they get everything to me. So sometimes I'm the trash can and they put everything on me, and then I have to solve it or route it to somebody else. So but beside that, we also provide our own services. So we provide and develop our own very individual services to our specific business needs that we have. And so I'm still kind of in the software development thing, but not as a developer anymore. So I changed my perspective a bit. And one thing that maybe not everybody would guess about me, I'm a hard rock star. No, just kidding. But I play drums in a band, and so that's my hobby, and I really love that.
Oh, that's super cool. Okay, well, thank you for the introduction. So one reason, I think the main reason I was so excited to interview you, honestly, is because that you're in a position that probably thousands of people are in, which is being new to Agile and figuring out how to do it and how to kind of translate your past experience into Agile, which sort of leads to the first topic that you and I were talking about, which is roles. Like Agile roles are new, and how do you help those roles get well occupied? And I remember you started in kind of the PO role, and then sort of PO proxy. So you're smiling already. So tell me the story there.
Yeah, exactly. So also from my starting with Agile, I think I was quite in a happy situation with that, because I started my leadership role by simultaneously introducing and getting comfortable with agile methods. So when I started, I was not too deep into stand or whatever management style you can imagine. We started with it by evolving and introducing it by ourselves. So I was totally new and still am totally new to that. But maybe this helps a little bit to be open about this stuff. Yeah, and exactly as we from inside our organization, so the IT started in our environment to introduce Scrum in the first place. It was total experiment for us. We did it the first time. Of course, we got help from some coaches. Otherwise, we would be very hard to do that. And so now one of the biggest challenges that I faced in the beginning was, Agile or Scrum came to us like some kind of savior. Well, we can put some of the big decisions away from us, and we just shift that over to our colleagues from the business side. So I speak of IT and business. So we say, well, you have to take all the decisions. We just do the implementation. Yeah, and so we ran into that. Yeah. Into that borders. It was new to our business as well. So they said, well, what the hell do you want from us now? Do you want us to do all the work or such? And so this came to this kind of situation where we wanted to start a project, or we did start a project, and we were talking about who's doing the PO role. And there were heavy arguments about where this should be put in. It was said, well, it can never be in the business because our colleagues in the business don't know how to guide a Scrum team. And the other way was, well, but we are not the real experts of the business domain topic. Yeah. So, and this was really hard. So at the end, the compromise was, because it was never found, I said, okay, guys, I'm doing it, because otherwise we're not starting the project. But I was really struggling with that in the beginning already. So
I remember that.
I started that being a product owner for a domain which was also kind of new to me, which is really a bad situation.
Two new things.
Exactly. So this started on, and we had introduced kind of a new role, which is not a standard of Scrum work. We introduced that as a product owner proxy. So I was more or less the translation from a couple of business colleagues who were also in the team, which then were labeled as business owners, to get in the requirements. And then I helped to facilitate that and transformed it into the real way and user stories and how to slice it and so on. And this was a setup that now finally works as a compromise. So still it's more than one real product owner going around. So this causes a lot of problems still. But in the moment, this works quite well. But it did not from the start, because you had to be very clear about the roles. And we had like a lot of arguments, even when the project started. And it was one time that we was really at the edge of the project. Should we proceed at all? Because there were so many conflicts at the beginning. Nobody was clear who should do what is whose responsibility, and so on. And it changed at a point where we got everybody together and exactly discussed these topics. What is my expectation of my role? And really expressed that. So this was kind of a game changer here. And I just remember that when I sat there and just, guys, I cannot do a proper PO. I'm not capable of that because I'm not the expert in your business domain. I cannot take the decision of option A and B because I cannot tell you how this will impact your business. And so they were, okay, you are right, but what do we need? And then we started discussing that and evolving these roles. Maybe the phrases are not new, but these products on a proxy role and the business owner role. But the point is, and the learning about this is that you have to see the other side as well. We started with just the IT view, and we forgot about the product owner or business side a little bit. We just left them alone and said, so easy, you have to do everything. You have to write down everything, prioritize everything. And as I was in the role, I realized how really, really hard that role is. Yeah.
Yeah.
You feel like this change of perspective really also opened my mind to that a little bit. So yeah, it's like really you have to be kind of mini entrepreneur in an organization, a big organization. Yeah. And yeah, so what you always hear is from, if you discuss requirements with business side, usually is, yeah, everything's important. Yeah, but what's more important, this and this? No, everything's important.
Everything.
Yeah, so you don't get a prioritization. And to learn how to get prioritization, this needs also to be evolved and helped and coached a little bit. So yeah, the most important statement or a decision of a product owner is to say no to stakeholders, to certain stuff. This is the hardest part about it, which I figured out.
It's so hard, and I'm curious, like, what's made it possible for you to say no? Still have a relationship with them?
Well, of course, it has some kind of trust to say no, because they need to trust you that you take these decisions right. Yeah, so you need to have that trust level. Otherwise, you've been tackled all the time. It's not accepted that you say no. So you need to have a transparent way of displaying things. So maybe we can talk about this later also, how you can achieve that. Yeah, and having kind of a trust in the team, but yeah, this needs to be built up. So there's no generic answer to that, I guess.
It's so interesting because it seems like a lot of these keep coming back to Agile as a mindset. And
of course.
Mm-hmm. And you I think you're also in the interesting situation of you were playing a product owner role, and then there was a scrum master on the team, but the person who was playing the scrum master role reports to you.
Yeah, exactly. So this is also quite creepy. Yeah, so we have yeah, so I'm the PO, but I'm also the team lead for the dev team, and the scrum master is also in the team. So this has also some implications and conflicts pre-programmed. And yeah, so during that discussion with the business, I stated my role for the business as a PO proxy, as let's say a scrum master also for the business side. Yeah, so I facilitate the framework and help on the business side, whereas the scrum master, which is more focused then on the dev team side, and we of course we need to synchronize a lot. So you see, it's not really the standard way how to follow. So it's adapted to our environment, with still a tear in my eye that we couldn't do it like it's in the book. So yeah.
But in a way that does not put a tear in my eye. Like, it puts a smile on my face, or a warm part in my heart, because I think a lot of organizations or teams new to Agile think that, okay, how we should have to do it is by the book.
Yeah.
But it's never by the book. Every organization has different needs.
Well, but it helps. It helps a lot to do it by the book the first way. Yeah.
That's true. Like the shuhari, if you're beginning,
exactly.
do it by the book. But what you've done is like a really intelligent adaptation to the needs of the organization. And, I see this so often in teams new to Agile, where they think being Agile means they can choose however they do it. But instead, what you've been able to do is keep the important parts that you really need, and know what you have to keep and what you can kind of leave for later.
But you have to revise that all the time, and try to revise it at the standards, so that you're not off track with the mindset of it. So that's the real hard part about it. And you still can get this only with constant and continuous feedback. Get this. Yeah. So
that's so true. That's so true.
So this is where coaching helps a lot.
It does.
Also, because you got the outside perspective a lot and can reflect with somebody neutral. So this helped a lot as well. Yeah, not coming off track with the Agile mindset, even changing the framework without having used it real properly by the book even once. So
yeah, definitely. And I remember we were having those framework conversations, and it reminds me of the story of what happened with your team when they almost kind of tried to weaponize Scrum and say, no, the process does not say this, so we're therefore not giving you that. What happened there? That was a really huge learning for me.
Yeah, exactly. So this is one of, maybe from my perspective, also one of the pitfalls you can run into Scrum when you use the framework too much as a process, and yeah, just use that as a shield for building up a little silos inside that. So yeah, examples where you just have the team somehow do implement a specification, and at the end, okay, it's not really what, from a PO side, it's not really what it's what we wanted or what we had, but they say, hey, it's exactly in the specification and we've exactly done that. But you think about it, couldn't we have discussed this earlier? Couldn't we have could you have revised it somehow? Because I think you see that this is not going the right way. So this is really a thin line between following the process and still being in that agile mode. I mean, the point is you have to avoid of building up the silos from a PO and the dev team side, because that's what could happen somehow. Yeah. So that's, and the point is they cannot be successful without each other. Yeah. So this linkage between these two roles is so bound. Yeah. There are so many interrelations between them. They cannot be successful without each other. So, and if they fail both. Yeah. So it's like in a soccer team when the strikers just don't go back and help defending when they're under pressure, yeah, or the other way around. So they need to rely and help on each other, so they will as a team or not. It's just as simple as that. So this could happen, and then you have to be very careful about that and see indicators about that, if that happens or not. Yeah, but also to that, still a lot of feedback and a lot of communication is always, or could be, the key to do that. I mean, just like an example, we had a situation in one of our teams where we also ran in kind of a blocked situation, where it was nearly of critical arguments and statements like, I don't want to be in the team anymore, near to that. So this was really shocking to hear that, because at this time I thought we were mindset and on happiness level we were running quite well.
Right.
So this came up, exactly. So you have to understand, we're coming from an internal IT. We've done some solutions and service on our own, but to be honest, like usability and design had never been one of our priorities, because we're using internal frameworks, standard frameworks that where you can develop very fast, but as your internal, the focus is just not there. But now with a new project, we're really going outside. Yeah, we're having a really customer-facing product, and so this is really high priority. It needs to be very usability, very high usability, good usability, and it needs to look good. Yeah, so it has to sparkle. And so we don't have a designer in our team, a dedicated one.
That sounds like a problem.
Yeah, it is. And it came. So we assumed that it would just work. So we did some mock-ups, we did some UX analysis and all stuff. And so we had I had an image in my mind how this should look, because we had mock-ups. And so we put it in the sprint based on the mock-ups, and developer did an implementation of it, and the dev team, and it came out and it was like, oh, well, this is still the mock-up. And it was like, of course, what did you want us to do? Like, make it shiny. And then the arguments start. Why didn't you make it shiny? Why didn't you specify it in a visual design way? And so we really argued about that, and everybody kept blaming the other part. So, and then at this moment when we sat down and came down to the root cause of the problem, and the problem was not that it was a fault of several roles, but it was a fault of the system. Yeah, we don't have a designer. We don't have a designer, so there is nobody particular taking care of it and making sure that the design is good and the design is sparkling and stuff. So, and we didn't have a chance to get one shorthand on board.
Yeah, yeah. It's always that resource issue.
It's always, that's a boundary. And of course, if you have endless resources, you could do things much better. But this is where you have to think about other solutions if you know this is not really doable with that. So, and we then did it a little differently. We put it in our sprint. We said, okay, now we focus on doing visual design in the sprint. And we say, we cannot estimate that, we didn't do it before. And it's like, yeah, well, okay, but we don't have a chance. Just we put a high story points for that and see how we come along. And we also changed the feedback cycle.
How so?
We did feedback on the visual design each day.
Each day. Oh, that's right. I remember that, the daily thing. And that seemed like the turning point for you.
Yeah, that was it. Because then it's not just between me and one developer, but also we then did more feedback with other colleagues. We just got everybody who started working on some visual design parts together for the feedback loop. It was just like a daily feedback only for the visual design. Yeah, so this was also not standard. But in that moment it changed, and the retro of that sprint, we had a lot of smileys in there because we achieved a very good visual design, and we did this by still making people happy. Or they were very happy that they achieved it because it was not their profession, and it is not, but the result is still quite good.
I remember you telling me that moment seemed like a turning point with the team, where after you implemented the daily feedback on the visual design, they had a sense of accomplishment. Like they knew, okay, we're not overnight UX professionals, but we were able to create something in that area through this cycle of daily learning. And they not only did it, they were open to it and they were happy about it, which is one metric.
Yeah, exactly.
So another topic that we had talked about, which I thought was so interesting, is that sometimes you said people have told you, well, Agile can't be planned.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a very interesting topic, and I was very also happy about that. I could more or less disprove it, and I figured out how to disprove it. And there are some kind of, and it's really simple ways to get along with that. Yeah. So this is one of the prejudice that you have about Agile stuff, so that all that it's chaotic and you cannot plan it and you cannot do any kind of forecasts. Yeah. So this is also where I asked some people to help out. Yeah. And how to approach that kind of stuff. So where will we be in half a year? Yeah. So, and also in discussion with the management or the stakeholders, how to discuss scope in a broader timeline. And so this is just a simple method how to achieve that is really, and I really recommend this to everybody, do a burn up. Do a burn up chart for your whole project, and you will see that, hopefully you will see that this helps to just get more transparency in your project and really get a discussable baseline with stakeholders and management in regard of where you are and where you will be. So maybe we just do a brief summary of what a burn-up chart is.
Sure, yeah. People might be new to it, and it's so simple and valuable.
Yeah, it's really simple. So what you do is, basically you have your backlog with estimated story points. So you have, for the stuff you have estimated, that's pretty fine. You know how much work that will be. And by the velocity of the team, so you can do approximately, let's say, 50 story points a sprint. You can say, okay, the current really well estimated backlog, it will take you, what's say, X sprints. That's simple math. So what would you do with the rest? Yeah, and this is always, there was the initial question to me, how to estimate the effort of the rest of the backlog, which we haven't discussed about before, yeah, in detail. And there is just also a recommendation from our side, just take risk in estimation, yeah. And you can use, like, there are tools for use that, like magic planning, yeah. This is some kind of a grooming where you plan it in detail, but with more risk and with more variance about it. Yeah. So I don't go into magic planning in detail now, but the end result is you have at the end, you have a story points, even on not user stories that are not ready yet by the definition of ready, but they have an estimation. And for some of them, you can say, well, I'm pretty sure that this will be in that area. But for others, we just say, hey, based I do interpolation, it could be 50 story points in total, or 100, or even 200. And then you take some average point. But nevertheless, you know, at least a metric. You at least have a metric about that. And you know that for this stuff, there could be a variance. And I experienced that even with guys from a higher management level. By introducing it, they get that in a minute. Yeah. And if you transparent, take that graph and say, hey guys, this is our current velocity. We have our backlog, and we say in 3 months we want to do a release. Our current backlog says we have that amount of already well-defined and estimated user stories, but we still have an amount of roughly estimated user stories. So there is still a high risk in the variance.
Yeah.
And by just outlining the velocity of the team, you see, probably we will just make X% of that what we want to have. And then the discussions start. Usually the discussions start not, how can you get faster? Or, well, can you reduce the estimation? Because if you do that, what I experienced, they don't start to discuss that anymore. So you get the status of, okay, they trust you now because you made it visual, you made it transparent. Then they start trusting you that you thought about it. And they don't challenge it, at least to a certain amount. Maybe they do. But what I experienced, they don't do it. They're talking about, okay, so what should we do? So this helps in facilitating and the prioritization of topics, and that's what you want to have in Scrum and in Agile. So this was this was really great. I didn't expect that to work that well, and I really love the burn-up chart because it helps me in a lot of situations. Just putting that up, guys, look at this. Look at our line. We have now 200 story points above that line, and we're still discussing about new features. Are you serious? Or is that features really that important? No, it's not. Okay, we put it out of that scope for that release. But this helps a lot. Yeah.
So it's a vehicle for having the discussion, and why it works so well is it's very
absolutely, yeah.
It's in a way it sounds not only helpful for you and the team, but also for management, because it answers the question they always want to know, including sales people, which is, when do I get my stuff? Or
exactly.
Which features can I get by date, by Easter, by Christmas, whatever.
And the point is, you can never say you will get this 100% then, but you can say, I'm pretty sure about this, or you can even tell them by percentage, I'm 80% sure we'll get it by then, because that's what the graph just says. Yeah. So it's based on metrics, and it's based on visualization, not only on stomach feelings, which nobody accepts.
No, because it's wrong. Estimating's hard. So I have like a real life question for you. As an Agile coach, I've introduced the burn-up chart to many different people, and I find that only maybe 10 to 20% of them actually use it. And you're one of the ones that actually are using it, and you're getting a good result. And I'm curious about, I'd like to find out, when I show it to people, why don't they pick it up? Is it too difficult to create? I think it's pretty simple. I mean, what made it possible and easy for you to create one and find it useful?
I can only guess, but, or maybe if I think about like a couple of months ago, the point is really, how can I get to that estimation part, even if I don't have a lot of details? Because then you have to take risks. Yeah.
Yes.
So this could be a blocker, and I'm saying, hey, what could go wrong unless you have totally underestimated or overestimated the stuff? So, but if you make it transparent that there is a risk in the estimation, we really had for the target scope of a release, we really marked it by color, saying this is green done, this is well estimated. And in this block, which was a third, is a high risk of variance. It was totally clear. It was like everybody got that in a second. That there is, it could be twice the effort, could be half, which usually it's not. We all know that. It's usually more, but they knew. And they say, okay, we see, and it's gonna be probably more, because that's what everybody experiences.
Yeah, that's how it goes. So it was the transparency and openness that you brought to it, and your willingness to not be perfect up front.
Exactly. To take that risk and do magic planning. Just if you want to see how this works, you also can look it up. It's really it's like a grooming, but with more variance and less details. You don't need to be ready with it, and that's maybe taking also down the borders to do that.
That's super cool, and I'll make sure to put those links in the podcast and make them clickable. So to close out, like, what would be one thing that you would tell people who are somewhat new, like within the first year or two, to Agile, especially the Scrum Master or Product Owner role?
I would strongly recommend to don't do it on your own. Because you're doing new stuff, so you're not you won't be confident enough to go into every argumentation with external guys and then having a status or a standing on explaining everything just up front. It's not coming by heart, everything. Yeah. So you need to have kind of coach or sparring partner when you introduce it. If you want to do it, get experienced guys that help you. Otherwise, I think it's going to be really, really hard. Also, in finding argumentation, finding new tools you haven't thought about, that, like the burn-up chart. Somebody had to tell me to use it. Yeah.
Yes,
so
sure. I mean,
I didn't come that by my own. I didn't find that resources by my own. Yeah.
I mean, there's so many resources. It's like, how do you know which one?
Exactly.
And that's where having a coach, who's been there before and, seen it before can help.
You don't have that quality filter in the first. You cannot really take that decisions what's really important and whatnot.
It's true.
And and what else I would really want to recommend, because that also changed a lot on my thinking on how we do stuff here, is a book called The Lean Startup by Eric Ries.
Right.
I just recently read that, to be honest, but I'm still kind of impressed, or let's say, it opened my eyes to a lot of stuff, because he's really focusing on that feedback loop cycle, to build, measure, and learn. And what I realized is that, and that's what he also stated out, that how many hypotheses we do hypotheses, but we take them as facts, and build our actions on them without validating that at any point. And so that changed a little bit the perspective, saying, okay, we do hypothesis because we need to. A project has never done before. That's the definition of a project. Aspects you can reuse, but in the end never has done it before. So you go into a world which you really cannot completely foresee in the future, everything in detail. So you need to take hypotheses to go on, but you have to validate them. And the only way to do is do it, get feedback, and learn about it. And it sounds so simple, but you have to be aware that your starting point is not the truth in stone. It is an hypothesis the most ways. And so if you approach it like that, it makes it easier also to fail, because hey, your hypothesis didn't prove. So this takes the weight from your shoulders, because okay, we need to experiment. It's kind of sometimes it's really exactly a scientific experiment. And that's also what I see in my role, as everybody's talking about leadership. So the context is somehow still very fuzzy about that. And this is what I see also in my role, to just establish this environment on taking more risks, taking more experiments, and get to the learning and then act about it. So it's all standard stuff. It's nothing I invented, of course not. but it's all there, and I just can recommend to take a look at the book or something, because that was really, I was sitting there nodding a lot when reading it. Yeah. So.
Yeah, like a game changer. And when you say the word hypothesis, I feel like that's just a fancy word for a guess.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's a guess.
Exactly.
And it's
it sounds better if you sell that.
It does, like hypothesis. It's fancy. And it seems like one of the keys to your success is your willingness to let go of that old mindset that it has to be perfect up front, because reality is it's never perfect up front. And I think in particular, the environment you're in, which is manufacturing, is really challenged in that area, because when you're in manufacturing, there are certain things you do need to get right pretty early, because if you don't, then you have a huge problem later.
I mean, that's the beauty of software. Yeah, software can be changed at any time, more or less, if you do it right. Yeah. Of course, in a product life cycle, in a PLM cycle, if you don't do that and you're going to mass produce, it's harder to change. But software is a little bit more stable about changes even later.
True, but even when you're actually building a widget, like you're manufacturing a turbine, all of these techniques can be applied and are being applied.
Yeah, it comes from there. Yeah, we all know that.
For sure, historically from the Toyota production system. So, wow, I feel like we've just barely gotten started, but thank you so much. This is such an
You're welcome.
Interview, like so many success stories around like the mindset shifts and being not only, someone new to Agile, being able to understand the concepts, but you've applied them and adapted them to your environment in ways that are creating success. So thank you so much for this interview. I think it's going to be valuable to lots and lots of people.
I hope so too. And I still need to say that we are just on the beginning, and we're still doing so much wrong. So I'm just saying, just try it. Just take the risk and try it. That's my real statement. Encourage it and try it. And sometimes it's still hard if you are in that environment, but be brave.
Ooh, that's going to be my motto for today. Be brave, just try it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Sebastian. I really appreciate it. And we'll talk.
I do as well.
All right. Take care. And since you're in Germany, I'll say have a good evening.
And you have a good day in the US and all of the rest of the world. Thank you very much for having me. And goodbye to everyone.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Agility Transformation Podcast. If you like what you heard, feel free to pass along our web address to your friends and colleagues, agilitytransformation.com. You can subscribe on our website or find us on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or YouTube, and give us a like. Be sure to check out our site for previous podcasts and join us next time. And until then, be curious, adjust and adapt, and be agile.